All right, so I am glad to be back together. Hopefully we will not have the same any kind of mishaps like we had last week with the electronics. Although I do have to manipulate over here a little bit because while I got everything else hooked up, I lost my controller. So I have to go down here and do that by hand. All hocus pocus. Doesn't bother you guys. When you see me doing that, just don't worry about it. All right, so we know where we are. We're actually in session 2 of our time together during Lent for the Shack. Had the book up last time. I don't have it this time. It came out many years ago, and the movie was recently made out about it. So I warned you that if you go online and you look it up, you're going to find all sorts of varying opinions. Usually most of them are slammed one way or the other. Either people say, oh, this is a great movie and it's really terrific, or they're over here and they're saying this is the most horrible heresy that's come around since 2,000 years. So it depends on what you're seeing and how you're seeing it. If we're moving from a dogmatic perspective into the movie and looking for signs that specifically meet our specifically meet our understanding of Trinity or our understanding of Revelation, and then you watch this, you're gonna be saying that's not it. But remember 2 things. One, we're watching a movie. Okay, that's one. And well, it's an attempt to present a theological truth through media. So there's always going to be something lost, and there's going to be a good attempt to make it as good as it can be. The second thing is that there's different ways that we come at theological principles. And when you're in seminary, for instance, you're coming at it from a very academic perspective. You're walking into it and you're trying to learn it just as it's written from an academic standpoint. But there are other ways of looking at a theological truth. And I maintain that after reading this and watching at least a portion, I haven't watched the whole thing myself, that what we're looking at here is a theological truth through the eyes of familial life, which is family life, and grief. Trying to understand God in a way that God can be understood. So as we dig into this thing and as we watch this happen, if you see someplace it's like doesn't really match what you think, and you think this is really terrible, it's horrible, that's where we want to go. We want to find out why that is like that, and then unpack it. And the other ways we're going to do this is if once we watch a section and you see something or taken by a piece, so if something stands out to you, that's where we want to go as well. There's nobody who offers any idea or any comment that this was really important to me or I don't understand that. All these are good. That's what's going to float our conversation to make that happen. Okay. Now, last week, if you remember, we went through a little background on Mac when he was a child. So you remember his father was an elder in the Congregational church by day and a drunk abuser by night. So he beat Mac's mom. When Mac would get in the way, he would get beaten. If Mac did something wrong, he'd get really beaten. And when he was beaten with serious righteousness, right? That in fact his father made him scream out a quote of Colossians 3:20 while he was getting whipped. You remember that section? Obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. And every time he hit him with a stripe, he would make him scream that out in the rain outside in the middle of the night. So that's the world that Mac came from. And the suggestion in that first section is that Mac killed his father. We don't know if that happened, but we are left in that section with Mac finding all of his father's bottles and pouring like rat poison into the liquor because he's got his, like good alcoholics, he has his bottles hidden everywhere, and so he's collecting all his bottles and spiking all his bottles. So we don't know what ultimately happened, if that happened or not. Maybe that we'll find out from that later on. But that's the suggestion we're left with. So Mac has a beautiful family, Nan and his 3 kids. Missy is his youngest. They've gone to the park. They've gone to like a state park, to a lake, and I think we stopped. Yes, we did, to a state park. And while they're at the state park, while he's away helping his other 2 kids, Missy has gone missing. She's actually been taken, which we find out there at the very end. And so where we're going to pick up with this is where just a little bit back from where we were. It's where they are now in the school auditorium with the FBI that are all getting the searches together. The search has been going on for a while, so it's been a while. It's been a day, 2 days, 3 days since this has happened. That moved very quickly. We went from just the sheriff helping out at the lakeside to the big, in meeting in the school auditorium with the FBI organizing the search. And this is where we're going to pick up. Nan has just come home or just come into this thing. She was away and now she's back. So she's meeting the family in there, and we're gonna go to the next portion right there. Okay? So I'm gonna stop this right now. So you guys, they're at home that are watching this later on. We're going to go to, if you want to watch the whole thing from the beginning to a stopping point, stop where Mac's having the kitchen conversation. The second one, not the first one. All right, we'll be back. All right, so we're back. I should have mentioned that when we started that, since it's been a week since the last time we saw that beginning, that Mac had gone, it was a snowstorm, the family was away, he fell down, whacked his head, that was that whole thing. And while he was down there, he got that note out of the mailbox that said, I miss you, want to see you, meet me at the shack, Papa. And Nan, his wife, that's how she prays. She calls God Papa, which is very, very nice, but Mac doesn't like it because it's too familiar. It's too casual for him. So he's not really into it. So we picked him up when he was getting up from and that bit, of course, you guys got this now that what we were seeing in the shack and all that was all a backflash of what had happened. And we're going to see that more as we go, little clips here and there. As you might imagine, they put these things together. And you remember that last week I gave you a definition of God. I think it's a really good one. That is if you look up the definition of God, there's a lot of them. I like this one. The supreme being, the creator and ruler of all that is, the self-existent one who is perfect in power, goodness, and wisdom. So if you take something like that and start to unpack it, remember I said in church several times that when we begin our prayers, a lot of times a really good thing to do is to go back and really think about who we're praying to. So we can get caught up in a lot of things by saying, oh God, oh God, oh God. But if we stop for a moment and qualify who God is, this thing, right? The self-existent supreme being of all things, the one who created everything, the one who created the cosmos. And here I have a direct line. Imagine being able to call, the emperor of humankind on the telephone. So if we start from that place, that's who God is, and move it backward, I think it has a real change on how we approach God with our needs and our praises, our petitions, and our fears. Anything reach out and grab you just for this section? I know it's just we're doing character development right now, but did you see anything that looked familiar? Did you see?
The way he reacted is the way I think I would.
Yeah.
But when I read the book, I don't remember if they said anything about her demeanor or not, but she was calm.
Good, yeah. Yeah.
And I think she's full of faith, and maybe that's why.
Okay. So that's Nan. We're talking about Nan now, right? Mm-hmm. Nan, and as far as what's going on in the FBI meeting at the very beginning, when Nan got there and met the kids, and then they went in the hallway, that interaction, and then the interaction with what's going on. Who's taking care of the family right now? Is it Mac? No, it's Nan. Who's going and making things happen and taking people where and getting things done? It's all Nan. So you could ask why, we could ask one of two questions or both. Why is Nan so cold or in control, and how come Mac is not? And Sharon suggested one for Nan, maybe it's God. Maybe that's Nan's faith showing. Maybe that the tragic reality here doesn't affect her any less, does it? If it doesn't affect her less, we either have her personality, it's her personality type, or she's got a hidden strength or perspective that we don't know about, or Mac doesn't know about, or maybe he does and that's why it's not bothering him. You'd think in a relationship where this kind of thing happened, if one person was acting very cold and aloof, it would be kind of disturbing for the other one.
When you have children, people pass, in some situations at least, that's what keeps you going. That has kept me going. I can say that.
The differences.
No matter all of the things that are going on, you still have these children. They're still there.
Oh, yeah.
They still need that guidance or something, whatever
Right.
it is that you give.
And you put up a protective wall.
Oh, sure.
You have to, in order to survive, you have to put up.
Yeah.
She was very nurturing, and he had a brutal upbringing. She had a nice upbringing. It was a.
Yeah.
We don't know about her upbringing, but it looks.
Yeah, in the book, it's and here it's kind of implied. The way it's implied here is that we don't hear it's bad. But in the book, it's good. It's like most people, hopefully, that have a better upbringing than that.
I think Mac feels really very responsible for everything. It's a heavy burden that he can't take.
Yeah, yeah,
He probably feels like he chose his son, and then his daughter was taken away. You know, he chose to save his son.
yeah, good.
And his daughter was taken away.
Yeah, yeah,
And so, what kind of I think he's feeling, what kind of decision did I make? Did I make the right one?
yeah. No, he didn't. Yeah, yes, he did. Which one was it?
Well, his son was drowned.
Right. Yeah. So this is not exclusive to men, but
No.
I can tell you that men have a really overwhelming sense of responsibility for all things that go wrong in the family. That's not absolute. There are exceptions to that rule, but I have, in my time in the priesthood, talked with so many men who are burdened by events that happen in their family, and I hear the same two words over and over again. It's I failed. It's a strange thing to hear when you hear the story from the person where there was absolutely nothing that person, that father, that husband could have done, but they failed. And if you look back at all the movies that you see about the meek, mild-mannered father who suddenly turns into a super agent who goes and stops 20 armed robbers from coming in their house and saves the whole day, that's part of it.
But don't you think he feels like he has to have some place to place the blame? Someone place the blame?
Absolutely, yeah, that process. So who can take that kind of blame?
Oh, well, I couldn't.
Well, who would you look for? Who do people look for when?
God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. God's a safe bet. If we don't understand God thoroughly, but we know because we've been told that God forgives us and God takes care of things, then we can, in the self-defense, I think Mac in self-defense just slides it over to God, because if I can't blame God for it, it's going to tear me apart. I can't handle it. So it'll be enough off of me and on God that I'm okay, and that's what turns into a kind of a righteous anger and resentment that lashes out at God. I was told when I was a kid, I could get mad at God because God's big enough to take it.
That's right.
And I believe that's true. But the other side of that is, after you get mad at God, you have to make up. You have to come back.
Relationships.
Right. And the difficulty that people have sometimes is they don't make up. You leave it with the blame and you walk away and say, that's enough. And men will do this a lot, because if the blame goes over there, I can go on with my life and not feel as bad about it over here. But I can't go make up with it, because if I go and make up, I'm afraid that what I'm going to find is it really is my fault. So as long as that blame's over there, I'm fine with it. I'll just keep going over here. There was a line earlier in the movie when it first started in the book. The secrets we keep have a way of clawing their way back to the surface. Isn't that true for just about everything? I mean, we're not talking about, deep, dark, national secret things. We're talking about stuff about us, our own stuff that keeps coming back up, off, over and over again. So this is part of what Mac is doing, that sense of responsibility that he can't shake. How does it turn out when when Nan comes home and he gets off the sofa? He tells her he conked his head, and then what did he do when he had that paper? What'd she say?
They said it was the work thing.
So how do you work with your wife? Lie, right? So here, with a chance, there's a chance in his life, some bit of a chance to find some time together, to come together on it. Like Nan's saying, I don't want to lose you too. This is a chance for us to come together. And the way he's taking it, at least right now, is to go the other way, to keep a secret. Did you catch the other side of that when he was asking for the four-wheel drive at the table? When his friend asked him, did you tell Nan about it? Do you remember what he said?
No, she keeps the burden.
Yeah. She's barely holding it together. Did she look like she was barely holding it together? Looks like she was doing pretty well. Yeah, he's trying to keep it from her, but that's really, that's not the issue. That's really not what's going on here.
He really almost has revenge on his mom.
Yeah. Yeah, because if he can do something, he can do something. Everybody here is a parent. If you're a parent, the worst thing, the most horrible thing in your life as a parent is when you can't do anything. This starts out when your child's a baby and they're crying and you can't do anything. You're doing that thing, but it extends later on, especially when your child is hurt, something happens and you can't fix it because it's painful and it's painful, it hurts. It just tears you up. You can't do anything. So at least revenge would be something. It wouldn't help Dan, but it'll help. He thinks it'll help him. By the way, it won't. It's just displacement. Just moves things over.
I think when he says that she's barely keeping it together, that's just reflective of himself.
Good. Yeah.
That's how he works.
Yeah. Yep. Anything about God strike you? What's the elephant in the room? I know everybody has probably heard about this or has read it or has seen
That's what it says on the internet.
on the internet. So what do you think about that? What do you think about this depiction of God so far?
It's okay,
Yeah, why?
because God has everything. I mean, if he's all-seeing, all-knowing, he knows what it's like to be a man, he knows what it's like to be a woman. You preached a sermon on that one time.
I did, in the portico. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's, we're going to find out why Papa is her. Oh, did you get her name? Did you get
What was the name? I have my phone.
Alucia? Yeah, it's a Hebrew. It's a Hebrew word, and it means the Creator God who is the ground of all being. So that's pretty cool. That's a pretty good name right there. That's why she said I'm partial to it.
She changed the ending a bit.
Yeah. Well, if you look it up online, you'll find 3 or 4 different pronunciations based on the Hebrew. So, yeah. Elousia. So in English, Alucia, but you put a spin on it, Alucia or whatever you want to put there. It depends on what. So yeah, that's a great name.
But don't you think that's a wake-up point? One, she's a woman,
Yep.
and 2, she's a black woman at that.
Wait a minute, he's a woman.
God can be anything.
So now this is where it gets into the theological. This is a conundrum. So this is where we'll kick this ball out and kind of leave it because we're at the end of the time now. But so remember, within the context of the economic Trinity, right? So the economic Trinity is the relationship between the 3 people of the Trinity, of the Godhead, how they live, how they work together, who they are. The relationship in the economic Trinity in the incarnation is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. I mean, Jesus has a mom. It's not his dad. His mom is his mom. So remember, what did Jesus say to Mac on the pier about what he could do?
He would help in the garden.
Help in the garden. What else?
He's going to be at the woodworking shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have some projects to work on.
He could do whatever he wanted to.
Whatever he wanted to.
Papa's in the kitchen.
Papa's in the kitchen. So this is going to remain Papa, because this is the first person of the Trinity that Jesus called Father, but Father is appearing to Mac as this woman. Now, I'm sure you don't remember this. There was a very short clip in the first episode, the first section we were together with a nanny kind of person, neighbor at the house.
Where she feeds
Yeah, and it was the same person.
It's the same.
So when he said, "Don't I know you?" Was that it may have been an allusion back to this childhood memory that he can't quite put his finger on. What you do know about the event that happened with that woman was that it was good. It was kind. She was kind. So if there was any kind of extended memory to that, it would be a nice memory. It'd be a good one.
He said something about it's gonna be all right.
Yes,
Yeah.
he did say that.
Yeah, she was going to be all right. So that's not, see, I don't think they're suggesting that was God way back then, playing human, but just that there's a connection there for him.
And that's how God is appearing to him as a nurturing.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that's going to make more sense. They'll talk about this later on. So it's not worth throwing it out right now. Don't get all offended. If you go online, this is one of the places you'll find that they absolutely blow up. They get crazy and like, this can't be, this is horrible. But remember now, so from a theological perspective, when God says, Jesus says, this is my Father, and we have an idea that a father is a father. That's what he looks like, the Zeus character is really what it is, like just a big Jesus, a lot older. So that's what they'll say. This is the image of a father is a father. So this is heresy because the image of father here is mother. But there is, if you take it from a familial theological perspective, if I'm looking at it from a grief perspective, I'm looking to God to heal, to make things whole so that I can know who I am again. There is a breadth of ability that God has to make that happen. And God is not restricted by what we're looking at, which is how we see God. That big Zeus guy. There's more to it than that. And there's more to it than just the idea of saying God. What we're saying here is God is saying that God is, the Father is appearing as this black woman, is not saying that God is not, the Father is not also the Father. Right. So this is all going to make sense later on. Now we got to stop. Okay, last one. Earbuds?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about the earbuds?
A whole bunch of people.
Yeah. Why?
No, she's talking to a lot of us at the same time. She's got a lot of prayers coming in and out.
Why the earbuds? What do you think?
So the young children, bringing the young
More familiar.
Yeah. Or that, I don't know, she knew he was there even though she couldn't hear him, or
Sure.
maybe
Yeah.
that was to show that
What is?
she's got more powers than,
Yeah.
maybe she's more aware.
We've talked a little bit about, I remember years ago we did an adult forum series for a while and talked about what we imagine we would do if we ran into God. Like God's like right there. What would you do? And what you have to do is you have to imagine what you do. And what you imagine what you do is mixed up with what I think I should do, and then what I would think I would actually do. So there was a lot of answers to it, but it really got around to I would probably find myself on the floor. Right, this is God. What can you do? You're standing in front of the master of time, space, and being. But arguably, if that was God, if that was all God is, then God's not really accessible. There's no way to cross that chasm. It's like if you're a peasant in the Middle Ages and the king walked by. There's really no way to get beyond the fact that that's the king and I'm not. So if the Father is having earbuds like normal people in the kitchen doing normal things like cooking, it goes a long way to make God really accessible. Remember what I said in the sermon, I was last week or 2 weeks ago. God uses the things of our world, our time, our space, our knowledge to make God's self known to us. If God picked something way out there that we had no idea what it is and said, okay, I've helped you, see, look, I've helped you, and walked away, we'd be like, that didn't help. We don't know what that was. So God uses the things of our life that are familiar to help us. The problem that we have, and this will happen forever, is that we get so busy, our ears get so clogged up, our eyes get so myopic that we can't see or hear what God's actually doing. We're not looking for God's action in our own life. We're looking for a burning bush or, a talking donkey or whatever it might be. It's got to be something spectacular. So if nothing spectacular happens, we think that God is just doing what God's doing, and we're just kind of moving along, hoping that God's doing it with us. But what if God's a lot more accessible than that? Doing things in your life right now to show you that God is present for you. The job for us is to open our minds and our hearts and our ears and our eyes to see. Remember what Jesus said over and over? Eyes to see and ears to hear. Why would he keep saying that? Eyes to see. Those who have eyes to see and ears to hear will know the truth. And part of that truth is I'm right here. So I said in church, homework, so here's your homework. Homework is look for those places in your life this week. Places that are normal, places that are pedestrian. Nothing extraordinary, just something marvelous. And wonder if it isn't God. Well, go one step farther. Just give God credit. Just tell yourself that this is a moment that God has given me this. And praise God for it. Say thank you. Lewis said if you do something enough, especially in the realm of response to God, if you do it, if you force yourself to do it enough, in a little while it'll become second nature and you'll do it without thinking. So if you start praising God for the little things in your life that come into your life, like a bird or, a parking place, right? Just the stuff. You're in a hurry, you're tense, and you find that parking spot right there. And people say, oh, that's ridiculous, making God awful petty, making a parking space. But what's the result of it? I get the parking space, I feel a little better, my blood pressure goes down, my tension goes down, I get to go inside. Maybe God didn't give me the parking space, but maybe because I get the parking space with God's presence, this is what's helped me relax. So why not just give God the credit for the parking space? What's the harm? So the practice is just look for God everywhere that you are and give God credit for the parts of your life that are ordinarily wonderful. And then we'll see what happens next week. It's really going to start rolling now, as you might imagine. Everything starts happening pretty quick, and we have this unfolding. Okay? If you this week think of things that we didn't have a chance to look at, stuff came to you while you were away, and you're like, oh, I should have said something about that. Write it down and bring it back, and we'll touch on it next week, because there's nothing in here that isn't good that we can't stretch a little bit and see where it takes us. And especially, I say this over and over, and I hope everybody really remembers this forever and ever. When you are thinking about God and you're listening to something and you get caught on something, like you got snagged by a thorn, right? You get stuck. My personal opinion is that is God. God is snagging you on that thing, because whatever that is in that moment, you need to work on. You need to know about. You need to find peace with. You need to be able to take or accept, or it's a gift. It's not something terrible. It's something wonderful. So never let that thing go by that you get stuck on. I've done it myself, where something's happened, I've gone, I wish I knew. Too busy. Don't do that. Don't do it. Write it down. Come back to it. If it's God, what can it hurt to come back to it and really look at it? You might find something just absolutely miraculous in it. Okay? All right. I pray that everybody has a wonderful, wonderful rest of your night and wonderful food, and so thanks for gathering. No.
I saw you had some pudding.
I did. It was really good. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. You guys at home, hope everything goes well. I'll catch you in a little bit.
All right. See you later.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, honey.
Bye, Mom. Good night.
You too.
You're